Cutting metal decking is dangerous. Extra precautions must be taken to avoid injury. Flammable sparks are hazardous and can potentially cause a fire. The following safety gear should be used at all times: safety gloves, protective eyewear, and face shield. It is recommended to use both eyewear and a face shield, as debris can easily enter the mask, resulting in injury. Ear protection. Constant exposure to loud decibels produced by a saw can cause ear damage. Respiratory mask. Cutting results in debris and dust. A proper respiratory mask should be worn. A fire extinguisher should always be on site. Preparing the saw and blade. Make sure the saw you are using is maintained and you have the proper gas and saw oil on site. Inspect the saw's blade for any imperfections. If your blade is worn or has any chips or cracks, replace it following the instructions from your saw manufacturer. We recommend starting with a new blade. Designate a safe area to cut your material that is free from flammable items. You must elevate the material you are cutting off the floor. If you are cutting more than one sheet at a time, make sure that one of the bundle ends is squared. If the sheets are not squared at one end, then all of the sheets will be cut to different lengths. Begin measuring and marking your cuts. In this example, we will be cutting 6-foot 2-inch metal deck into 3 2-foot long sections. Start by measuring from the squared end and mark off 2 feet. When marking your measurements, it is important to consider the blade thickness and wobble during rotation, which leads to 3/16 of an inch in material loss. Therefore, at the 4-foot mark, add 3/16 to the measurement. This will compensate for the material lost during the first cut. At the 6-foot mark, take into account an additional 3/16 of an inch for material lost during the second cut, which places your measurement at 6 feet 3/8. Repeat the measurements on the opposite side of the material, and using a straight edge, draw a dark line. Make sure the line is easily visible, as viewing through a face shield and safety glasses can make it difficult to view. Once your material is measured and marked, you're ready to start cutting.
I'm Taylor Eberhardt from Western Metal Deck, and I'm about to show you how to properly and safely cut material down to length. So I'm going to demonstrate the proper way to stand. You want to keep your feet spread. Keeps the sparks from shooting at your pants. You don't want to get burnt. You might start a fire. And you always want to stay comfortable. You want to be as comfortable as you possibly can. You always come out, you can rest your arm, depending on if you're right-handed or left-handed. You can rest your arm on this hand. Like that. If you're only cutting a single sheet, it'd also be helpful if you had something maybe heavier on top to keep it from vibrating away. If not, you just put your foot there. Make sure it's in a safe distance between the saw so you can actually cut freely and not be uncomfortable.
Always make sure you are in a stable position when handling the saw. Never lean forward while cutting. You should always reposition your feet when advancing forward as shown. It is important that you cut in a straight vertical line. Do not lean the saw in an angle, as it will cause your cuts to be off in measurement. Do not drag the blade guard along the metal, as it will affect the straightness of your cut. Here we are demonstrating an incorrect cut. The blade is at an angle, which will result in a beveled cut and inconsistent measurements. Blade should be straight and held at a 90-degree angle to ensure the material cuts evenly.
So a lot of times when you're cutting, you don't want to just start on one end and cut through all the way, because once you get to the end here, this is still connected, this is down here, the blade will catch and bind up sometimes. The blade will usually catch about right in your last hat. It can throw you, it can just stop, you know, it just makes it a harder process. So a lot of the times, when it's all up, you start cutting, you always want to leave a little bit left on this. Cut the rest of the material pick up the saw, come back, and chop that last piece.
When cutting decking to width, you may have to cut on the decking's high or low seam. Cutting on the high seam is easy, as you will have enough clearance from the floor. When the need arises to cut on the low seam, simply flip the decking over, making your low seam a high seam. Looking for more videos? Hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content.